think about building a YouTube channel, right? We need to start from the goal, and we were just talking about it before recording. Like, what's the goal? And Ed's first goal is, I want to generate views on the YouTube videos I put up. And a very common anti-pattern that happens is this: okay, I want to give something to someone. I, Ed, want to build this kind of videos, right? Like we were talking about that. And what I try to ask Ed to do, and he'll do it live here on this episode, is to think about it from the perspective of the avatar that he's serving, right? So not what Ed wants to do with the YouTube channel, but what the avatar, Kate, wants to do herself in her business, right? So what does that sound like? What does Kate want to do herself in her business, Ed?
So Kate wants to make a living selling online courses that sells by itself on automation, let's say, or automatically without
Right.
her having to sell.
This is a very important point. Now, we don't know if this is actually what Kate wants. We think it is, and if you look at some of the previous videos, we've talked about the SMIQ that Ed ran and what he learned from that SMIQ, that stands for Single Most Important Question survey, which is one of the key aspects of the 48-hour book method. This is our assumption. We assume that Kate wants to make a living selling e-learning or e-courses. All right, cool. Now that's our assumption. Now we need to experiment. And actually, this is the topic of today's video: how to validate that my content has reach and appeal to my avatar. And now we have actually a two-sided aspect to this conversation. We want to help Kate, who's the avatar for Ed's business, but we also want to help Ed, who is himself trying to create a business around this type of service to help out Kate. So the first thing we need to realize, and Ed has that in the YouTube channel he wants to start, we need to realize that we are in a search problem domain. We are searching for something that works. We're not trying to deliver something, right? When I started this conversation with Ed a minute ago before we started recording, he was talking about, okay, so I want to do these videos on YouTube. And I said, wait a minute, stop. Why do you want to do the videos on YouTube? What was your first answer when I asked you that question, Ed?
Well, messaging, because I was thinking that I want to have a clear and cohesive messaging across YouTube, my website, and the newsletter that the YouTube is complimentary of.
So this was the first goal. And then we started to think about, okay, but if messaging is successful, what would that give you? So what would that give you if your messaging is successful?
Right. So the first thing that comes to my mind is an opt-in, so audience. So again, in my definition and in our definition, audience is not an audience unless it's your media. That means you control the attention. And there's only one way to do it, which is email list.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic for another video.
Right.
But the goal was audience, right? And then, of
Right.
course, we started linking that to the YouTube channel, and we quickly figured out that maybe a bit premature to have an audience goal at this point for Ed's YouTube channel, which is just starting. So what did you end up with after that?
So we end up looking from so earlier I was looking from my perspective, that what I would like to test or what I would like to see people accepting it. But then in the discussion, it became clear that even though I was thinking I'm looking from benefit point of view, it was still my projection on masses. Then we flipped the side empathy. Basically, we tried to put myself in the shoes of Kate, and what would Kate want? Now, it took me a couple of seconds to think through it, but so what came out is she want to make a living selling online education, online courses, e-courses, however you want to say it. That's what she wants more than anything.
And this conversation also changed your goal for the YouTube channel, which then became
test for if I post this as a video title, do people watch it?
Yeah, so views right? So
of
we
my
started
YouTube
measuring
video.
views. Now,
Yeah.
once you start thinking about this, after the fact, after this conversation, it's kind of obvious, right? Like, I want to help Kate make a living selling e-courses on autopilot. The way I know if this is what Kate wants in practice is I put it out as a video, and then we look at the views. If there's no views, there's two potential problems. One, I have no reach, which is one aspect, right? The title of this episode is validating if my content has reach and appeal. Yeah. So if there are no views, then of course no reach. But if there are views but not that many, then appeal becomes the topic, right? So now we're looking at how do we validate content very quickly. Now, a YouTube video can be a complex endeavor. It can take actually even several weeks to set up. So we're not looking for that kind of video here.
Yeah.
Right? We're looking for a video that Ed could record in maybe one afternoon, edit, and post that same afternoon, so that we can still collect a lot of data in the coming weeks, right, in order to assess whether our content has search and appeal.
Yeah.
And this is what we're aiming for with the 48-hour book method. We use all kinds of tools. YouTube is one, but we could use Twitter, blog posts, emails, whatever, in order to validate hypotheses quickly, right? So the hypothesis behind this experiment is that Kate, wanting to generate revenues or make a living selling e-learning, will converge to that video by asking that question from YouTube. How to make a living selling e-courses.
In that case, I could just post the same video across my social media, not only YouTube, to get some quick, see if people are willing to view this. If this is a problem that Kate is experiencing, or is it somebody else? That could become a problem to be solved later. But if I create this video with the POV point of view of Kate, will people watch it? You know,
and now a new process starts. So in this particular case, Ed wants to start a successful YouTube channel for his business. Now, he could be writing a book to promote his business as well. It's the same process. We want to test hypotheses quickly. And this hypothesis might be a little bit of a mysterious word, are just questions we have. Does Kate really want to make a living selling e-courses? Right? We're not writing, or in this case, we're not setting up a video of what's the best digital platform to put your e-course on, right? We're saying how to make a living selling e-courses, right? There's a lot of other stuff around that. So we want to test that hypothesis, and the hypothesis comes from the questions we have, and always the questions related to the avatar, right? Of course, we also have questions related to, you know, the messaging, which is how the conversation started with Ed, and other aspects of our business. But when we run experiments with customers, we need to start from the questions that relate to their actions, that relate to their goals, their challenges, or their objections. Now, if we do this, and this is the cool thing, so the next stage of this testing, validating the appeal and reach of your content, is to actually learn, right? So Ed will post this video, he will learn the kind of reach and appeal he can generate from that video. And based on that, decide on what is the next video. That might be because he's collecting more SMIQs of the people that sign up after watching the video. Or that may be just because of the comments he hears, the discussion on social media, whatever that might be. But it becomes a cycle. And this is the key thing. Test, learn, test again, learn, test again, learn, test again. We're doing this cycle. And this is what we call hypothesis-driven book development, or in Ed's case, hypothesis-driven YouTube channel development, right? And this is the important thing. We need to start from the questions that are avatar questions that, if we are right about their answer, will positively impact our business, right? And then once we learn, we generate another set of questions, then we put it out as a test. Yeah. And then we generate more tests.
Yeah. So I remember from the recent coaching session that we did together with one of our clients, in the workshop side of things, you ask questions such as, what do you know about your customer avatar? And what do you not know that you would like to know? So from my understanding, the experiment that we are devising right now, it comes within what do we know? And the SMIQ and interviews that follows would cover the what do you don't know about them. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. We do that exercise in order to stimulate our imagination and generate more questions. The important thing is to generate those questions, right? So what don't you know that you would like to know, right? And then you write those things down and you go like, okay, so let's design an experiment to figure this out, right?
Right.
We don't know, but we would like to. And that is the key aspect, right? So the growth of the book or the YouTube channel in Ed's case comes from having questions we need to answer and then running the experiments and then getting the result, getting the feedback.
Yeah. And basically, the quality of your work depends on, or the quality of output depends on the quality of questions you ask. And the first rule of quality of questions is the quantity of questions.
Yeah, always generate as many as you can, because that will clarify your thinking and also clarify the gaps you have in understanding of your avatar. But I do want to focus on one thing here. It really is about the avatar. The most common mistake is try to focus on what we want to push to the market. Right?
Yeah,
This is what Ed did
this
at
is
the
the
start
most
of the conversation.
Yeah. This is the most difficult thing that I experience working with clients, is convincing them that they have to go through this exercise, because almost always, or in most of the cases, especially working with experts, people who have spent like 5, 10, 15, even 30 years in an industry, they think they know about their customers.
And
And the
that's
moment,
exactly the opposite is true. The more you know about your industry, the less you know about your customers, because you're the expert. They're the beginner. You
yeah,
don't have the same mindset anymore.
yeah. Yeah, and when I explain them, like, the appeal of 40-hour book method is that you detach yourself from that assumption and you actually hear from your customers real words that they use to describe their own problems. And people like, I think this is one of the things that I'm going to focus a lot of education part on, emphasizing
Okay, so
why it's a mistake.
yeah, this is very important. So this is a whole conversation. We're just going to touch it now, but this might be another video if you want to write that down. Is actually what Ed is doing is not going to help his customers. Here's why. Customers don't want to be educated. They want to be helped. And
Yeah,
Ed is just now illustrating the what I call the expert curse, right? The curse of knowledge. I know too much, therefore I can't relate to their difficulty. The reason why your customers are saying that I'm not so interested in that 48-hour book method coaching is because they don't understand what problem you're helping them with. Now it's up to you to figure out what is the problem. It's not up to them. They tell you what problems they have, and then you pick the one that relates to the 48-hour book method. This is one of the most common mistakes we do as product creators, as content creators, is to think that our role is to push something to a customer who doesn't yet know how important it is. No. If they don't know, it's because it's not important for them. However, if you attach that 48-hour coaching to a problem they already know they have, that's a totally different story.
yeah,
Right? So the reaction your customer is giving you, I don't think I need 48-hour coaching method, is exactly what you should be listening to, because that's the truth. They
yeah,
don't really need it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what else do they need that might lead them to understand the benefits of starting from the avatar's perspective? Right?
yeah, yeah,
And here's the tool that we give you in the 48-hour book method. It's a very simple tool, hard to apply, but very simple to understand. You don't tell people what to do. You tackle their objections, right? So you show them the idea. They say, well, I don't think this is for me because blah, 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 blah. That's an objection. You write it down, and your next piece of content is about tackling that objection, right? A very simple trick is to actually start your blog post with their objection, or your chapter or your YouTube video. Start it with their objection. I don't think that the 48-hour coaching method is for me because I already know what my customers want. Okay, I already know what my customers want is the objection that we need to tackle. Now, it's very easy for you and me to believe that they don't really know what their customers want, but it's not for them. So this is our job. Like, how do we go about it?
yeah, yeah. And we are pros at this, and still at least I find it challenging. Like, I spend hours every week going through the past researches, past interviews, and trying to listen to what customers are saying or audience is saying, and still it's so easy to miss the mark with minor biases that just creep in without you even knowing.
Yeah,
It's so
those
difficult.
minor biases are actually what makes us successful entrepreneurs. Like this bias towards action, as an example. Like, I just want to do stuff. I want to create content. That's what I want to do. I already know what to create. I just need time, right? Like this, you will hear this often. Well, that's why it's so hard to create content that even has an impact, because we
Yeah.
think we already know. And when we think we know, we're not ready to learn what we don't know. So the first and most important aspect of the 48-hour book method is to put ourselves into the shoes of our avatar. That's why we start with the SMIQ. That's why we do the empathy map, to
Yeah.
make sure that we have a picture on the wall to look at and know what Kate wants in
Yeah.
her own words, so
Yeah.
that we don't get stuck into what I want to give Kate, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The two quotes come to my mind are one attributed to Abraham Lincoln, that if you give me 60 minutes to chop a tree, I'll spend 55 minutes, or I don't know, 50 minutes sharpening the axe. The second quote is with Albert Einstein, that if you give me an hour to solve the problem, I'll spend 55 minutes reframing the question. Well, honestly, we never know if they said this because there's no proof that they said it, but this is what we are trying to do here.
Yeah, and by the way, it doesn't even have to be that big of a percentage if
Right.
you do it with the right tools. So compare these two scenarios. I go into a cafe, I order a latte and a big piece of cake so that I have a lot of sugar in my brain, and I start writing what the customer wants. That's one tool. That's what most people do out there. The other is you go to a cafe and you actually strike a conversation with somebody who's there, and lo and behold, they actually are in the business you're in, right? They could benefit from your services. And instead of trying to sell the service, you start asking questions. All
Yeah.
right. So when you had that challenge last time, what did you try? What's your
Yeah.
biggest challenge right now? What have you learned from your competitors? What are the things that you have done that have worked? What are the things that you have done that have not worked? And
Yeah.
if you write those things down, boom, you already know what the avatar is looking for. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing: the avatar doesn't know, nor can they tell you what is the right solution. But they can tell you what's difficult, what are the challenges they've encountered, what they've tried that didn't work, what they tried that worked, and from that we can engineer the content that we need to create.
Yeah. Now, on the topic of validation, also I want to highlight that the easiest and at the same time, for some people, the most difficult way to validate an idea is actually to talk to people, talk to real people. I have seen, like, among our clients, there are some clients who are like, yeah, piece of cake, we'll just do it, already done, right? And then there are some clients which are, whoa, would pass on weeks and months in just anticipation of what will happen if they reject me, or something similar, you know?
And that's
Um,
something we try to tackle in the 48-hour book method and the coaching. We give people tools so that they can easily go over the first interviews, right? So
yeah,
here's a tool you can take to the bank. Look at your LinkedIn content, the contacts you have there. Pick 3 to 5 people that you're already familiar with and are in the business you're in, so they would benefit from the services you provide. And, you know, chat them up on LinkedIn and set up a call. Have a conversation with them where you only ask questions. You don't try to sell anything. You're just trying to help them describe to you what they are going through. Right?
yeah,
That's the first trick on getting enough SMIQ answers so that you can start to draft the first sales page and also the automated and scalable SMIQ survey, which you will need later on to write the book.
yeah, and that was the major part of the first session of 48-hour book method coaching program, where we actually go into details of what to say, what to follow up, what questions to start with, what questions to follow up with, and again, as the exercise I mentioned before, that you make a list of questions that you don't know about your customer and how to squeeze it in that small conversation that you have with your customer, with potential customer avatar. Yeah.
So the other topic we were talking about with Ed about his YouTube experiment is, okay, so how do I measure success? And here's the thing. Ed's not there yet. He will need to start building the YouTube channel. But there's only one measure of success in this 48-hour book method. And that is audience. People who not only know you, but they've given you their email and permission to contact them, right? That's the definition of audience. It's not views on YouTube. It's not likes on social media. It's not follows on Twitter. It's none of that, right? That's totally useless because they can switch it off like that. It's people's email and permission to contact them, right? And that measure is how you measure success. So when I first launched my book, in fact, I think I only had one chapter, right? Like put one chapter, one landing page out, and I very quickly got up to 1,000 subscribers, like in a month or so, like really, really quickly. At that point, I knew this book needs to be written. Then it was no longer about, what should I write and so on. It was more about getting an interaction with those readers, learning what they're struggling with, and designing the book around those topics. I didn't know why the topic was so important for these people, and that is relevant. It's not relevant for you to know why the topic is relevant for them. What is relevant is for you to know what challenges do they attach to this topic. What are the things they're struggling with? What is it that they can't do but would like to? What are their goals, right? And from then on, you build the content. But this first, put out the first chapter and a landing page and get 1,000 subscribers in about a month, that was the key sign for me. Okay, this book is worth writing. If you do the same and you get 0 subscribers for a month, forget about that book. Ignore it. Move on to the next idea. I bet you have many. That's the idea.
Yeah. So coming back to the YouTube, the experiment has gone from, in my mind, like, hey, I'll build the YouTube, we'll make a video, test my messaging and see if it resonates with the people, to, hey, this is my understanding of my customer avatar. I think she needs help with this particular thing, which is, hey, I want to make a living selling online course. And the experiment now is, can I get views? And to be precise, one view count as view. Can I get views on this message, or a video with this title?
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
And now we need to look at the MVP. Now, when I was writing the book, and what we teach our coaches and students in the 48-hour workshop, is that your MVP is the first 3 chapters. And that's true, right? Like, you have the first 3 chapters, you have a landing page, you get opt-ins. That's your MVP. Well, in fact, there's a lot of work before that workshop that you do on your own time. We don't need to, be on a call for you to do that. And that's why we have the coaching program. But we need to define the avatar, create the first SMIQ and run it in face-to-face or, live call conversations. And from that, build the first version of the empathy map. And that's your real MVP. All the chapters, the content you will write, those are just experiments. Do they resonate? Are we tackling the right problems? Do I get the book to be recommended by the people who download it? Like, all of those things are experiments. But the real MVP, the real most important, most valuable product that you have is your understanding of the problem space, the avatar. That's the real MVP. And that's what we do in preparation for the 48-hour workshop. We do that in a series of calls. It's 4 calls of about 1.5 hours each, where we walk you through this. We give you the tools, we help you out, we answer your questions, and of course we give you the structure for you to create that MVP, which is the avatar, the SMIQ, and the empathy map.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, you can, for the viewers, you can learn about everything we are talking about, the 48-hour book method, with a link. So it will take you to our book. You can read all about it, read the page. If this makes sense to you, then this video is just complementary to that page.
Absolutely. So keep that in mind. And one final note, though, maybe even a warning or an advice, is it's very easy for content creators to try to please their audience, right? Audience will ask questions, and you try to please the audience by writing about what they want you to write about. And in fact, that's what we will do. But the way we do it is designed so that you create content around your passion. Don't forget that the whole idea of the 48-hour book method is to sell your expertise to a potential list of customers, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is you keep in your zone of genius the thing you're really good at. The 48-hour book method is just a structure that helps you to channel that genius, that expertise, into something that is valuable to your avatar. It is not about pandering to the audience. It is not about writing what they want you to write. It's about writing what you want to write in a way that helps your customer reach their goals, right? As I usually say this, and I think we've said this quite a few times in these videos, it's your customer's job to know what the problem is. It's your job to know what the solution is.
Yeah, but you cannot know what the solution is unless you find the right problem. And here's the trick. The customers can only describe their symptoms. It's your experience that help you find the problem behind those symptoms. And that's when you squeeze in your expertise, not before.
There's an example of that in Kate's avatar, which is the avatar for Ed's business. As we started discussing this, there was this high-level idea that they wanted to create an e-learning, right? That's what they want. They want to create e-learning. But in fact, as we started digging into the SMIQs and as Ed started interviewing them, we found that it was something else. Give us an insight into what that was.
Sorry, I missed that one. I was so focused on writing and articulating what you just said.
So when we started the discussion of Kate's avatar, we started from the idea that Kate wants to create e-learning or an e-course, right? And that was the problem, create a successful e-course. But then as you started interviewing the different Kates you have in the business, you figured out that that is just the symptom. What was the real problem?
Well, the real problem was they were hitting a ceiling where, time-wise, they were struggling to let's say, either maintain or grow their business without burning out. So they either were trying to reduce their work, passing on clients to somebody else, or making investment in activities or projects like real estate, which is fairly safe, but other examples include investing in new companies that they have no idea how to, or technology companies that they have no idea how to build and grow, and it didn't work out for them. Or in real estate, in the case of real estate investment, would work out in 20 years, maybe 30, depend on the investment. So it's still not freeing up the time right now. It's just freeing up the bank right now. So that was time poorness is the biggest problem behind all of these.
And because of that, it's not about the e-learning. E-learning is a potential solution, but actually what they want is a set of services around promoting and selling an already existing on-demand training product that they will create themselves, right? Like this idea of having a digital platform, the concept of developing your audience, because many of these avatars are not even aware that YouTube and Twitter and LinkedIn are not the platform for their audience. In fact, the platform for their audience is their mailing list.
Yeah.
And we need to build the processes around that. We need to build the structure around that. And that's really what the 48-hour book method is. It's about building a business around your content, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, Kate's goal is to reduce the amount of time they need to give live workshops, right? Or live training or live coaching, right? And do stuff more in a packaged method.
You want to stop selling her time. Now, that's not going to happen if I just go with the word, hey, I want to create an online course. If I assume that's the problem, then I help them create an online course and nothing happens. The course won't sell. Nothing will happen because they might not have the expertise needed to run this as a system, like where the course sales are happening, the audience flow is going on, and stuff like this. So that led me to whatever service that I've been offering to my clients, which is a more comprehensive, like, hey, you need this, you need this, you need this. Then only you'll be able to marketing tech, for example, marketing tech, and strategy, in order to leverage the online course to sell it without selling your time.
Absolutely, because otherwise it will be you using up your time in running a platform you don't understand,
Exactly.
struggling with different e-course or e-learning platforms that give you a lot of reach but no revenues, etc., etc.
And the problem is exactly the same for books as well. If you want to publish or be an author, just being an author helps you nothing. It's what you do with the book besides being just an author, or how you structure your book, and the strategy, the tech, the marketing behind it, that all come together. And this is what we tried our best to simplify in 48-hour book method, that without you having to go and learn the whole marketing or tech,
In fact,
just
we
focus on.
build that into the way the book is developed. Like the way the book is developed in the 48-hour book method already includes the digital platforms, the marketing, the growth, the advertising, the things you need to do in order to sell your expertise.
So your book becomes a system in itself. Some people in the marketing terms can call it sales and marketing funnels as well, but in reality, it is a system to de-risk your risk of the number one risk of creating something that nobody wants. It reduces your dependency on your own memories and your own reliance on your assumption of your customer avatars. And well, I've come across authors who have not even assumed a customer avatar. They have written a whole book. One chapter, first half of the chapter is talking to one customer avatar, second half to another, and third half to another one. So it's like super boring to read. It saves you from doing all of that. It also saves you from having to worry about what am I going to write about.
All right, but we'll talk more about that in the next video. So everybody, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.